Did he go? What'd they do? So far, it's just me in here. Oh, there comes two people. Hello, Benites. It's another cool early evening here at the Bad Ben house. Hopefully, your day went well. Did we do anything today? Went to the grocery store. We saw Jack, and he threatened to move into our attic. Attic. I called it addict. Sable has been in an exceptionally lovey mood. Archer, too, in a way. You know, today I did something that I have not done yet, but I'm getting a little sick and tired of the inflation bullshit because I think a lot of it is fake. Or it's people saying that so many people are talking about how inflation's out of control. Let me add to my prices. The phone the phone system I use, like the 800 number and all, went up. And then today I get a notice that the email program I use, hello, Janaea, thank you for your donation last night, by the way. Then I get a location that I get a notification today that the email system I use is going up in price. And all these people will want to sit there and say, first of all, it's a culmination of things. One of the things is that the minimum wage was raised. Well, guess what? It needed to be raised. Okay, people can't survive working 2, 3 jobs for a minimum wage that was 7 whatever an hour it was. They just can't do it. So they need to, they needed to do that. But here's one of the problems. These companies like Amazon would bitch about raising the minimum wage while Jeff Bezos is worth $150 billion. All right. These companies that like Walmart that bitched about raising the salaries and how it's going to get passed down to cost of goods. The Walton family's worth $100+ billion. Do you know how much? I mean, I'm not being patronizing when I say this. Do you know how much $1 billion is? If they were to pay, if they had 100,000 employees and they were to pay them each $10 more an hour, okay? What's 10 times 100,000? A million. So a million, and they're open 12 hours a day? No, more like 18 hours a day. So $18 million a day. Hey, Google, what's 18 million times 365? God damn it.
The answer is 6,570,000,000.
$6 billion. Don't take, she's all right so far. That's $6 billion a year. Okay. So a family that's worth 100 billion, and by the way, let's just do deal with that. It would take them 10, 15 years to eat up 90 billion of that. But they're still making billions every year in sales. So don't give me it's not possible. But anyway, then you turn around and you have these CEOs of companies are making, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 million a year. Why? And then they talk about how all the prices are going up because of inflation. It's bullshit. I'm telling you. There are companies that are saying, "Hey, the public is used to hearing about inflation. So we can say inflation's costing us to raise our prices too. So let's do it." So they do. And meanwhile, customer service has gotten worse and worse. They're using automated attendants to answer numbers or answer calls and all. Do you know the cost of Comcast, and Comcast is the largest cable um, provider in the country, an internet uh, provider in the country. And the bill, if you just have, one of their best packages, the bill is hundreds of dollars a month. True, with no premium channels, you can get like maybe under 100, but still insane. Um, and you can't even dial 1-800 Comcast anymore and have a human answer. You go through an automated. I challenge anybody to try to get a hold of Comcast. If I ever get a big enough voice out there here on social media where I've got hundreds of thousands of followers, um, I'm going to sit there and on a daily basis tear apart big business that sucks ass because Comcast is one of them. They have. I remember when we lost cable. I don't know if it was in the spring or last fall or when it was. I come home, the guy is out on our pole repairing the cable or internet or whatever, and he was not a happy employee. He was telling me how a company that used to employ dozens of people that do what he does, as they've retired, they haven't replaced them, and they're down to like 1/10 the workforce they were. In our town, about 20 years ago now, maybe 15 years ago, they went from on trash collection used to be a truck going down the street with a guy in the driver's seat and hi Sarah and two or maybe a third guy, another guy in the passenger seat, two guys riding the back of the truck, and they would switch out intermittently, and the guy would jump out and they would jump off and dump the trash cans into the back of the truck and drive away. Okay, they did away with them about 15 years ago, and instead of people being able to put like two or three trash cans out at the curb, it's different for us, the two of us don't, you know but for a normal family, they have one trash can now you're allowed, and a truck that comes by that picks it up automatically. A claw comes out, grabs it, dumps it, and drives away. So now three people have lost their jobs. So that's 75% have lost their jobs. Families that used to be able to put out multiple trash cans. And like I said, for us, it's not an issue. But for a family with, two kids or something, they generate trash and they got to stuff it in one and even give you, for instance, at Christmas, when you have wrapping paper and shit like that and you put out, they can't put it all out or get it all out in one take. um, but one trash can now. Used to be you could have several. Now there's one. And they did away with 75% of the workforce because there's one person driving a truck now that picks your trash can up and dumps it in the back. Okay, so that's cost cutting. Our taxes didn't go down. Our city property tax, my city property taxes have never gone down. Yet they cut 75% of that workforce. Comcast, where you used to be able to call, and I can't wait for the day that Google um, comes in with or somebody comes through here with fiber optic lines like Google that replaces Comcast and gives you better, reliable, faster internet and all the TV you could want using Google fiber optic or something like that. I can't wait for that day so I can fucking tell Comcast you suck goodbye. But you know what? It won't hurt them. The Roberts family or whoever owns it now has billions of dollars and would sell it for billions. Could sell it for billions. Bought it for billions from when it was Salmon's Communication until they bought up all these little companies and Lenfest, and then they bought up Lenfest. That's this region, Philly. They don't care. But you're talking about, I'm one house. Our cable bill a month is over $300 for cable and internet. Multiply that times this street alone probably has 100 houses on it. So multiply that. What's that? $30,000 on just this street in an area of 2.4 million homes. And the service is worse than ever. Phil, you caught me. I'm on fire tonight. And the service is worse than ever. I if you have we had DirecTV and Comcast at one time. DirecTV, every channel was HD. Um, Comcast just, if you hit the HD button on it, it's such a small, like the premium channels are such a small choice. And 10, 15 years ago, used to have HBO East and HBO West, both in HD. It's just gone, quality's gone down and down and down. And I had an experience where the Comcast guy came out here, could not get the problem fixed, comes back, and it wasn't a Comcast employee, it was a contractor. Comes back to the door and says, um, I can't get it to work. I would just cancel the service. And it wasn't all service. It was, I don't know if it was internet or whatever. I would just cancel the service. And I'm like, that's your answer? He said, yeah. And he reeked of pot. So finally I called back. I said, I called Comcast. I said, I don't want to throw somebody under the bus, but I don't know what to say. I said, you just sent a repair person here whose answer was, I can't get it fixed. Just cancel the service. Supervisor shows up um, that afternoon or the next day, had it working in under 30 minutes. It's just costs going up and up and up. I've had our phone system that I use for the business has gone up. The email system has gone up. Web hosting I had turns around and I was paying it annually or I was paying it monthly and it was on auto renew. After a year, they come up and they renew it for 3 years. in one payment. And I email them back. I'm like, what the fuck did you just do? You basically charged me 36 times what I expected to be billed this month. And nowhere in the contract did it say that. Or if you ever had to renew web hosting, you see when you go there, it's super expensive. But then if you go to the drop down, they've got you set up for 5 years renewal, which, yeah, you may save a little money, but guess what? You might not be prepared to spend all that money to save a little money. It's just this and you know the funny thing about inflation, when all this supposedly, you know, the gets under control and all, it just levels prices. They never go back down. I look at, first of all, soda's not good for you, but my issue is the price. I remember in the not too distant past when Coke and Pepsi would have their little price wars and charge 99 cents for a 2 liter. Now it's like 2.79. Even if, and it's worse if you buy like 16 ounces. And it's because of the packaging is where the cost is. But, and even, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but recycling, what a fucking joke that is. Because now China used to buy a lot of our, or take a lot of our recycled plastics and recycle them. They don't do it anymore. It's approximately probably 20%, if even, of what you put in the recycling bins is even recycled. And you're supposed to take the labels off everything. You're supposed to rinse out your soap, your like Tide detergent or something. You're supposed to rinse that out. Have you ever tried rinsing out a container of soap? You're supposed to take the cap off every soda bottle and the ring around there. Have you ever tried getting the ring that the cap connects to, when you first break it open? Have you ever tried getting that ring off? Have you ever tried getting the label off a soda bottle, a plastic 2 liter? And most of this stuff, when it gets to recycling center, is separated if it doesn't have a certain code on the bottom and thrown in the trash. I will tell you, some of the stuff they do recycle, and making the stuff, for instance, park benches, they're pretty incredible. But what portion of that, and the amount that's out in the ocean? Hi, Becky. It's just I see these that I usually just have kept my mouth shut But when I got that email today from the phone system I use, or no, from the email system that says the price is going up, I flipped my lid. It's $76 a month for a program that allows me to email all of, all the people on my mailing list. And it's going up to $82. Meanwhile, you've got Amazon Prime that if you watch it on, you have Prime, you have the Amazon channel. And if you watch the Amazon channel, now to have Prime without commercials, you have to pay an extra $2.97 a month and then tax. So it's like $3 a month to not have commercials at all in Prime anymore. Yet indie producers like me, who 6 years ago were making 15 cents a minute an hour streamed of our films, now make less than a penny if they even allow it on Prime, because they've made most of us, they've taken us all having the ability to make a movie included with Prime. So you either have to rent it or buy it, so that they went from paying us based on a show's or a film's popularity to getting paid for our film's popularity and turning around and paying us half of what they collect from you. Yet Prime has gone up. And I'll get people that will bitch at me because why don't you have your films available included with Prime anymore? I can't afford to buy them. Oh, but you can afford Prime. You can afford your internet connection. You can afford the phone you're on and the computer on. Fine. You can't afford me. I'm glad you can afford the time to email me to tell me that. Something I have no control over. Listen, we have at Christmas before for people that are, you know, in tough times. We have done toy drives right here before, and we've been totally transparent on it. When you make donations, we show you the pictures of what we bought. We package them, we deliver them, and all. We didn't do it last year because the people running that charity were just we didn't see them until like 4 days before Christmas, and I just couldn't hop through the hoops to make that happen. But the I'm all about that helping people. But when people sit there that look, if these films aren't worth spending, I think it's 99 cents on Amazon. If it's not worth paying 99 cents to rent, I think that's what it is, because that's another thing. I put a price and then Amazon changes it. And I'll tell you why they change it. If I made it $5 to rent, they would only sell, they would sell about 1/10 the amount they sell for 99 cents. So if they say sell 100 at $5, that's $500. If they sell 1,000 at $1, that's $1,000. So they don't give a shit. That's why they'll lower it. And they'll think I'll be happy because I'll make a little more. Or I'll make the same. But they make double. And I'll tell you what, I expect if they don't change soon, Amazon is going to go the way of AOL. and these companies that have existed for all the, all these companies that were huge. Facebook is another one. First of all, I think Facebook's failing already, but that's why they bought up stuff like Instagram, because Instagram's where everybody is now. But Facebook is so fucking terrible. Folks, I will get an indication that I have a message on Facebook, a notification at the bottom. I click on that, and like for instance, this broadcast, for the people that are watching on Facebook, those of you that make a comment or something, I'll get a notification that I have a message on Facebook, and I'll click on it, and it takes me to this video, and I cannot see your message until it appeared on the timeline. For instance, we've been on 26 minutes now. If you made a comment at 26 minutes, it would tell me you have a message, or you, and I click on it, and it takes me to this recording of this video. It does not, it says the messages will appear as they did in the live broadcast. So unless I want to sit there and watch the hour-long broadcast and see when your message comes up, and it might just be hi, it's fucking terrible. And there's been a couple of messages on Facebook, and I sent a message to support, and they never answered. Here, here's another thing. I just got a message from somebody. I like to spend money locally, on businesses locally, and T-shirts or something that are big sellers for us. I have I've made posts before, and I had a person in the township that's a T-shirt maker comment on liking the page. So I messaged him. I said, "Hey, I need to get some T-shirts made. Could you please call me or message me?" Never heard back from him. And one of the reasons for that is Facebook, in their wisdom, because they can't control spam, makes it so that a lot of the times a person that's not on your friends list, their message won't come to you. It goes to like a sort of spam filter, which is not easy to find. And so you could get a response from somebody and never say it. Never say it, because it's in a spam filter that doesn't give you an indication that you have a message. You have to know to periodically go there and check it. It's not called spam, it's called something else. Another guy who I called, who's local, same town I'm in, I go to his warehouse. When I call him, tell him I need t shirts, he said, "What do you need them for?" And I told him, he goes, "I know your movies. My girlfriend and I like them all." So I go over to his warehouse, and it's pretty big place, and he's making T-shirts everywhere. And I bring him a thumb drive of what I want. He says he'll look at it, get back to me that afternoon. Didn't. A week goes by. I contact him, says I'll get to it today. Never heard from him again. Yet anytime I see a post in our town's Facebook page about somebody looking to have T-shirts made, he gets recommended up and down, and people will say, "Oh, we've had him, and he does the best," and stuff like that. Yet when you go to his Google information page and you look at his reviews, they're like a 2 out of 5 stars. And most of those reviews are people saying, never heard back from him, never heard back from him, never heard back from him. Facebook is so big that they just depend on volume, not quality that's on there. When someone comments on your post and it can show you the name of the person that commented and you hit on that comment, it ought to take you to their comment. It doesn't. It takes you to the post. And that's all right if you get 3 or 4 responses to a post. Hi Russell, you're earlier tonight and I'll be on for a while. It doesn't you'll go to the post, it takes you to the post. And that's okay if you have 3 or 4 comments on there. But when you have a couple hundred, what are you supposed to do? Scroll through and find them all? Plus, you'll get sometimes like Instagram, which is also Facebook owned, you'll get a message from somebody and it's hidden unless you click accept. And if you click accept, it tells you they will then see when you're online and can message and call you. Well, you don't want that from everybody, folks. First, you want to see what the message is. It's just quality has gone to shit. And people and companies say that because of, I wanted to have a backyard fence put up for the dogs. And and I mean, our backyard, it's comparatively big, but it's not huge. It's 21 sections of fence. They wanted $11,000 to do it. Me and my buddy Mike did it for $1,100. And they all claim inflation. It's just so frustrating. And yet, people will take and they will vote for in the primaries the same candidates for, the House of Representatives and Senate that they've always voted for. They'll always vote for the same people, put the same people back in office that'll just sit there and fight and argue and not get shit done. And this stuff about healthcare, and I don't care if this angers some of you, but the fact that people have to pay a penny, that individuals have to pay a penny for healthcare, that's not like, cosmetic or shit like that, like Botox and stuff like that, but for just exceptional healthcare, the fact that people have to pay anything for it is criminal. I know some people are anti-vax and that bullshit. Well, you know what? I believe in science. And there's so much misinformation now. And AI is only making it worse. They make it look like somebody's an authority on something, talking about something. But I don't care how you are. I would take the COVID vaccine weekly if it would keep me from getting sick from that and dying. So if your stance on that is, I'm not taking COVID, a COVID shot, they put microchips in you and all. Well, you know what? Unfollow me if you feel that way because you're a fucking idiot. Okay. Now, if you don't want to take the shot, that's one thing. Okay. But because, there are some unknowns about it, it was made fast. Um, and I would probably, be seriously having to give it some serious thought if I had children. and pumping them full of all kinds of stuff while they're growing. I don't know that I'd want to do that. I would do more about, keeping them home, or I mean, not keeping them home. They have to go to school and all. But the fighting and the misinformation that's out there. Every time somebody dies today, especially somebody that's like a celebrity, you will see in the comments, did they get the jab? And that's just insane. The pandemic, I mean, there's still people getting COVID, but they're not getting as sick. And that's part nature, that the virus has weakened, but it's in a big part it was slowed down. Do you remember just 4 years ago seeing on the news every day the numbers of people dying every day from COVID? And the vaccine, whether you want to sit there and now sit there and say, "Oh, people I didn't get that shot." And I remember I was in my dentist office and we had to wear a mask. And when you go back there, you'd obviously have to take the mask off. And you'd have to still, when you have a doctor's appointment, when you check in, you have to say, have you had a fever? Have you been exposed to COVID or whatever? Um, and you'd get back there, and the dental technicians would wear basically the same thing they still wear and they wore before COVID, which was a mask and a face shield, like when they clean your teeth and all, and do whatever they do. But we're there, and there's this woman, and she's got like her 12-year-old daughter there, and she doesn't have a mask on, and her daughter doesn't have a mask on. And they're telling her you have to have a mask. She goes, "Well, I was in here the other day and didn't have to ask." And no, I'm not putting one on. Lady, get the fuck out. Take your kid and you, get the fuck out. Go find a dentist that says you don't need a mask. They told you it's their policy. Your daughter is upset because she says, "Mom, I want to have my teeth cleaned." She goes, "Don't worry, we'll find some place." Just shut the fuck up and get out. Their policy is you have to have a mask. That office manager has the balls to tell you that. Maybe one that was in here the other day you intimidated. Get the fuck out. I was so close, but as I'm getting older, I'm like, I got to keep my mouth shut. I just can't always be taking up these causes because then you're the asshole. I remember when COVID first came out and they wanted you to keep six feet from each other. I remember standing in the line. This was before masks. I remember standing in the line at Rite Aid, and there's a lady behind me with her daughter, and her daughter's got like stuff in her hands, and she's brushing into me. That wasn't a big deal in normal times. But with what was going on and still everything so unknown, I finally turned to her. I said, "Ma'am, they're recommending we keep a 6 foot distance." Now they're saying that was bullshit, but whatever. We didn't know that at the time. And so I kind of like nod down at her kid. So she says, "Honey, get behind me." And so she like I'm wearing a raincoat and my legs are bare. And so she gets the kid behind her, but she's still 2 feet away from me. And I just, natural selection just isn't working fast enough. And I got to tell you, you're right, Russell. Conspiracy theory is the new religion. These, you know, when I hear shit like Michelle Obama is a man, Michael Obama, come on. And then they show pictures like when her dress lays a certain way and they're saying that's a penis. It's just, and people swear by this. And yet, well, and this was a fact, at least it was a stated fact that I believe. Some people believe that was made up. in the year where we all wore masks, flu season that year was down 99% from like 100,000 cases a year to 1,000 cases. I think that's like, well, that might be 90% to like 1,000 cases. And that's because everybody was wearing a mask. And what that prevented was just when you would speak or cough from you projecting that into the air and someone else inhaling it. Okay. The flu gets people sick. It might not kill people, it kills a lot of people, but not like COVID did. But that made me say, after that first year when that flu statistic came out, how fucking disgusting were we all the years prior to this, that somewhere between 50 and 100,000 flu cases a year we were getting, and just those masks. But I will tell you one thing about the mask. I never had a problem really wearing the mask, but when we were allowed to take them off for the summer and then we had to put them back on in the fall, I said, man, this is a little tough to breathe. Yeah, well, one of the reasons Japan, I think, Adam, is because well, China mainly is the pollution. But that's another thing. People sitting here that are climate change deniers. All right, the reasons for climate change might may or may not be what's causing it. But there's definitely a difference in the climate than there was in my own lifetime. I've seen changes. Okay. Now, let's face it, the earth also went through um, an ice age when there weren't cars and stuff like that. But this is something you may find funny, or may or may not have known. Do you know one of the biggest pollutants, the biggest contributors of methane gas, is the cattle industry, the beef industry? Cows farting all day long. No shit. And back 100 million years ago, they said, well, that wasn't in existence at all. But you know what was in existence? Dinosaurs. So you imagine a 500-pound cow farting 50, 100 times a day. Imagine a 50,000-pound, I don't know what they weighed, but a T-Rex or Triceratops, or those big things I always thought were cool that ate the leaves real high, Brontosaurus, um, farting 50, 100 times a day. But, they also thought what wiped out the dinosaurs and caused one of the ice ages was a meteor that hit off the Yucatan Peninsula, sent so much debris up in the air that it blocked out the sun and everything got cold. Look, I remember the year Mount St. Helens blew up. We had a very cool summer that year because of all the ash that was moving across the United States. But whatever the reason, for people to say, oh, climate change is a myth. If you're another one that says climate change is a myth and you follow me, you can now unfollow me also, because it's not a myth. It's a change. Now, if it's a natural change, I don't know. If we're causing some of the issues, I don't know. I want to get, I would love to get solar panels to power my house, and I would love to get an electric vehicle instead of a gas vehicle. But electric vehicles aren't where they need to be yet either. I mean, they go 95% of your travels can be done on one charge. Um, I occasionally have to go up to New York City. If my car was a Tesla fully charged here, I could make it all the way up there and back and then some on one charge, um, and not have to stop. But the production of the batteries is a problem, and the disposal of those batteries when they go bad is a problem. But that'll change also. They now have had in the past I think the first time was within the past 2 years, and the second time was this past week or month, where, and I don't know the process, so I'm going to explain it wrong, but I'll give you an idea. They did a reaction where the power in produced more power out than the power in. So I'll try to explain it to my level of understanding and try not to like mansplain or condescend or patronize anybody. But when you have a battery and you might get, you know, 10 hours of charge out of that in a flashlight, the power that goes into that battery to give you that output is you constantly have to recharge or use new batteries to keep the power. But this process, it's like a type of mini fusion, and I'm probably explaining that wrong, but they can put in 1 ounce of power. And normally, when you put in, say, and I'm just using numbers that I understand, if you put in 1 ounce, you'll get a half an ounce out of it in power. Now they're able to put in 1 ounce and get out 10 ounces of power, which in the future will be designed so that a power source will be created that never has to be replaced or recharged because its output is greater than what went in to make it. So the output continues to go back into it and it stays charged forever. So I think 25 years from now, you're going to be able to buy a power cell that would run your house indefinitely. Indefinitely. Same for with a car. I never like people getting in my personal space and talking. You ever have a person that gets so close to you that can you when they say like something like a P in a word, like my pop said, and when they say pop, you feel like a little tiny blast of air. Well, whatever's coming out of their fucking mouth is landing right on your face. There's just the shit people argue about and the time spent on conspiracy theories. You know how many times, and I think, I can't believe people really believe this, the people that author these posts. I've got to believe they think they're being funny or they're trying to get likes. And through a lot of platforms, it can be monetization. When they say Joe Biden has been dead and he's actually, this is an actor and they're wearing a mask or stuff like that. This Pizzagate bullshit is another one. There was a guy that walked into this pizza parlor down there in Washington D.C. that they said people would go in and say a certain item on the menu and pay, and then they'd get sent to a location where there'd be a child for them to have sex with. First of all, I don't understand why child sex trafficking is not just the death penalty. Okay, if it's able to be proved, this person has no reason to exist in the world anymore. The only reason why it should be a life imprisonment over the death penalty is because they have to suffer through living in prison. Now, with that being said, there was this older woman that went into a because she couldn't get her health insurance would not cover her cancer treatment. So she went into a bank with a note says put all your money in a bag and give it to me. She didn't have a gun. They hit the silent alarm. The cops came there. She put her arms up. They arrested her. She went to jail and she said now she's getting treated for cancer. And she said, if they let me out, I'll just do it again so that I can eat for free and get, you know, free health care. And that's another thing, folks. When I talk about free healthcare, food ought to be, you know, basically currency is trade. That's what it is. Uh, by these people I'm complaining about. But people get like and for instance, I was up to over 30 viewers and right now shows 11, although that normally bounces back pretty quick. But I wouldn't be surprised if my broadcast is being fucked with because of the type of shit I'm talking about. Um, but I'll give you an example. Now, a tremendous amount of the viewers I have on every broadcast come from X, from Twitter. And while I think Elon Musk is a little bit, out there, um, I do think that the ability to broadcast and to show what that platform shows is like a plus. There's some people when they spout absolute nonsense, they need to be blocked, but for the most part, the free speech, even if it's unpopular, needs to be allowed. But basic food and when they sit there, when people will sit there and say, oh, these families, they can't afford one kid, yet they have four or five. Well, I got news for you. The population hasn't been growing at what scientists say it needs to sustain. I don't know. I just get so frustrated at what I call a lack of cooperation. Look, in my town, if if I ever got pulled over by a police officer, I always learn when you get pulled over, turn your wheel to the right so that the wheels are against the curb or facing in a direction that you would not be prepared to take off. I would put my hands up on the steering wheel. And if the cops came up to me and they asked me for my license or something, you see these videos all over line with, I'm exercising my right according to this or that, to not have to have a driver's license or to not show you this or whatever. Whatever. Show the fucking cop. You know how hard it is to walk up to a car as a law enforcement officer and not worry about being killed? And even worse, do you know how hard it is to be? Now, this is really going to piss some people off. Do you know how hard it is to be a black person in a car pulled over by the police and the thoughts running through their minds when a cop's walking up because they've seen so many instances of people being profiled and then killed? But I will also tell you, if you take and you run and you get shot because you ran, I don't know. I'm kind of mixed on that. But could you be running from fear? But a lot of times when these people have done something wrong, and these people, I don't mean black people, I mean these criminals, these people that get killed, when they get shot and killed, it's because they've they're not complying and they actually did something wrong. But I will say this, and anybody that wants to argue with this, okay, give me your argument. But this is not something I'll say you're an idiot, unfollow me. But this is something I'll tell you. I have seen videos where a, a, a person of color is told to do, get down your knees, put your hands above your head or behind your back, and they don't do it right away, or they start to run, they get shot. And I've seen videos of white people that get pulled over and they say, fuck you to the cops. And no, I'm not doing that. No. And I'm saying, if that was a black person, they would have been shot and killed already for not doing that. Yeah, that's gonna cancel me in a lot of people's minds, but that's how I feel. That's what I've observed. Um, a lot of it has to do with the law enforcement too. There are people that shouldn't be cops, but there are people that definitely deserve to be, and they deserve the respect for the danger they put themselves in every day. And I honestly don't know if anybody that follows me is in law enforcement at all. But when I was a kid, you know what my parents taught me? My parents taught me, if you're ever in trouble, look for a police officer or dial 911. Yet, unfortunately, a lot of underrepresented communities tell their kids, if you see a cop, go the other way. Or if there's a problem, you don't want to call the cops or something like that. And that's horrible to think. I don't know. I'm fired up tonight and I don't exactly know why. But it's the thing too with you know, 100 years ago, a little over 100 years ago, women weren't even allowed to vote. Um, there was a time in my lifetime, I'm 58 years old. In my lifetime, there were, and into a significant portion of my life, there were restaurants and hotels that wouldn't serve anybody but whites. Um, there were different water fountains. First of all, you wouldn't find me drinking out of a water fountain today, no matter what. But my lifetime. And people want to act like, oh, everything's equitable now. The fuck it is. But it's like women not having the right to vote up until I forget what year it was, but it wasn't hundreds of years ago. It wasn't even, I don't even know how long ago it was, but a vote by a non white was considered three-quarters of a vote. So let's do the math there. Three-quarters times two is equals one and a half, times four would equal three. So for for three three white people's votes would count the same as for non-white people's votes. And women weren't even allowed to vote up until the 1930s. No, it was earlier than that, the self-suffrage, whatever it was. 1925, thank you, Jennifer. 99 years ago. So when you think about this, me being 58, if my mother was still alive, my mother died at 80, 11 years ago. She'd be 91. Her mother was 40 years old when she had her. So for 30 years of my grandmother's life, until she was 30 years old, she was not able to vote. That's 2 generations ago of my family. And this fact of equal pay for equal work, why is that even a debatable issue? Can anybody tell me? I'm just so fired up about this. The the cost of everything rising because it's bullshit. Now, if it costs more to make an item and you're buying a tangible item, I can see something in that. But follow it all the way back down to the smallest denominator. If in your process of making an item, you're required to use water, and the cost of water has gone up, why? Why has the cost of water gone up? It's all bullshit. And the cost of war. Could you imagine if what this country has been in a perpetual state of war in one way or occupation, in one occupying another nation, in one way or another, since at least 1990, I think, which started with Desert Storm. And then they were in Afghanistan for 20 years, and they're still, are overseas. They maintain bases, but they're not like occupying in those cases. But us contributing to the Ukraine Russia conflict, the Israel conflict, having to worry about Iran attacking Israel and all that, the amount of money spent daily on that. But let's face it, we are a world of human beings. And just for human beings to treat human beings like humans doesn't take a lot. I'll give you, earlier I said about how t-shirts, I'm trying to have them made locally, and these businesses don't get back to you. And I physically called and left messages, and they don't call me back. I've sent them messages on Facebook. They don't respond. I made a post an hour ago on my personal Facebook page in the Egg Harbor Township page about, would you contact me? And yet I said, don't post people you've used, because I don't want to sit there and say, when somebody says, oh, use ABC t-shirts, this is just an example. I don't want to sit there and say, done that, they never got back to me. Because then they respond, oh, we get back to people. Yeah, that's bullshit. You're saying it now because you've been publicly flogged. But what do they do? Instead of, I'm asking actual t-shirt makers to contact me, what do? They just um, they just post on my post, oh, try these people, and I'm not doing it. And I'll let this thing load up with about 50 of those comments, and I'll put on there, every one of you that posted somebody you've used did not read my message where I said, I've contacted people you said to use and they don't get back to me. So I've asked people them. One guy did, and I told him I'm doing a live broadcast. I'll get to him when I'm done. Um, Adam, we haven't gotten them yet. We got your coffee mug and we got the book. I don't know how long ago you sent the t-shirts or but it's like I can buy a press and get the designs made and go but I just don't have time to do that. This and another thing about increased prices, when I sold t-shirts up until a month ago, you used to have to go to a third party site, which I was very happy. The guy that runs it is awesome. And I just go to update the designs, and they have on there that you have to go through a new process of doing the shirt. So all the designs I had that I just expected to turn on and check and have them active again, I had to go back and redesign, and it's not a very user-friendly interface. And they said, or we'll do it for you for $5 an item. Well, fuck you. I'm not paying you $5 a shirt to do that. Not a shirt, but a design. Well, Adam, one of the things too, and I don't want to get you concerned thinking this, we got I put it out in the mail today. We got a package last week and I thought it was Holly's. I brought it in and I it was still sitting downstairs. Normally between letting the dogs out during the day, she'll come down and pick up her package and take it upstairs. And this was still sitting there. And I said, so I picked up, I said, this isn't us. And it's an address that once in a while we've gotten a package that's for a house, a couple houses down that way or a couple houses down this way. And if it's that case, I'll typically take it and shove it in their mailbox, if especially if it's that way because the mail comes from that direction. If it's that way, I'll stick it back in my mailbox and say wrong address. This one wasn't even our street. In fact, I don't even I never did look the street up, but I don't even recognize it as a street around here. So I don't know how it got put in our mailbox. But who knows anymore? And Amazon's delivery has gone to shit. That's why I say I seriously believe things are going to change. And do you remember when, for a brief period of time on the Amazon app, it would show you where your package was in relation to showing up at your house? Like you could open the app and it would show that their truck was 5 miles away and you could watch it move on the app. Now, I don't so much even see Amazon trucks anymore around here. It all comes by the postal service. No, Adam, wasn't delivered to us. And I know you know my address. I'll ask Holly just to be sure, but we got a box from you this past week. Well, two. I got the coffee mug and I got the book. We got the book the other day. But the 17th, that's 4 days ago. And I've checked both. We have a box out front where bigger packages can be put in. You know what? Before you ask them, I will go look in the box. But I don't know. I'm spent after all this bitching. So, anyway, folks, I guess that's it for the night. I'm done bitching. Been on an hour. So, I'll be back tomorrow night. See ya. Love you. Bye for now. Oh, by the way, before I go, Adam, well, I kind of don't want to announce Scott's news because I want to have Scott here to allow him to announce his own news. But he auditioned for and got a part in a SAG movie, which SAG is Screen Actors Guild. So that's like a big deal for an aspiring actor. And it films Friday night and Saturday night. So I said maybe I'd get him in on, or films Friday and Saturday. I don't know if it's day or night, but I said I would get him into the broadcast for Jennifer's birthday. I don't think he'll be around. So, but we should all be happy that he got that part. So, anyway, I'll see you tomorrow, folks. Thanks. Bye.